All right, hello wine drinking people. Time for more of what I've had to drink yesterday and a dizzying display of sherry on the table for our event with Christina Balboa, the Lustau brand ambassador. And this is a sherry house I had the good fortune of visiting on my very first trip to Spain in 1994. One of the smaller houses. They make about 35,000 cases, and one of the top quality houses. They started out making these Amontillado wines, which these are wines that collectors keep the casks in their home, and they bring them up through their élevage, they call it in Burgundy. They raise the wines, and then they sell them off to people, and they bottle them with their name on them, so to pay tribute to them. So very rare type of sherry, and these guys were specialists in that, and then started their own sherry house. And you know, they make the full range of sherries like most producers do, and the Palomino grape is what they use to make all the dry styles, and then you have Pedro Jimenez, which is the grape for the sweet styles, and then you have the East India sherry, which is a the Solera, which is a cream sherry. They don't have it on there because most of the time cream sherry designates a lower quality. So we'll go through the wines that we had this evening, and we started with the manzanilla and the Finos. Those are the lighter style of sherries, and you know, that was the reason I wasn't so excited about going to sherry, because all of the stuff you have in this country in these two categories is usually hammered. These are wines that need to be drank within 1 year after they're pulled off of the cask. And the Solera system that they use in sherry, very unique. Nobody else uses this to bring wine up in the wine world. Well, maybe one or two people and some oddball people in different places of the world. But to any large extent, this is the only place they use this. And the Fino and manzanilla and Amontillado wines have this floor that grows on top of the wines in the barrels. It's a layer of yeast. And the manzanilla and Fino is a very thick layer, and these wines, well, that helps the wine keeps the wine from oxidizing. It also adds this lovely floral component to them, and keeps them fresh also. That's why when you draw them off the cask in the south of Spain, they taste remarkable. And after they bottle them and put them in a hot truck and drive them around South Florida, keep them in a hot warehouse for 6 months, they are just dead. So, you know, the only way to get fresh Fino and manzanilla sherry is to order it after it has been just brought in. And it's great because, Lustau, you got a secret decoder ring on the bottles. I don't want us to tell you this, but on the back, it'll tell you the year it was bottled and the day. It's stenciled right onto the label. L and then 3247 means 2013, bottled on the 247th day. So that's good to know. You know what? That means this bottle is less than a year old. It is fresh, and these wines all tasted fabulous. The manzanillas, the difference between that and the Finos is the manzanillas are produced from caves that are closer to the sea. They have a little more of that briny quality, and then the Finos are land-based near Jerez. So Sanlúcar is the area near the sea. Jerez is a little further inland, maybe 10, 15, 16 miles inland. And these wines all have this lovely freshness to them, as I mentioned before, this wonderful aromatics to them. And, I mean, they have a little bit of this almond nutty character to them. And like I said, that floor quality. And the manzanilla is a little more briny. The Fino has this distinct kind of flinty, minerally, and a little heavier note to the finish. But these three, for $15.75, manzanilla and the Fino today, incredible values, both great. The manzanilla Pasada de Sanlúcar, which this wine a little bit more expensive, and you know, to me it's a trade up. I don't know if it was twice as good as the Peperusa, though, man. These wines very close in terms of quality to me, and both great values. I mean, you know, you look at the time it takes to make these wines and the process, very expensive. So those are the lighter styles of sherries, the ones you really have to be cognizant of when they were bottled. Then we have Amontillados, and then we have the Olorosos, and those, well, Oloroso has never seen flor, so that's the difference between that. And then you have Palo Cortado, which is the rarest type of sherry here, and which they both start life as a Fino, the Palo Cortado and the Oloroso, but the or the Amontillado, but the Palo Cortado exhibits traits of Oloroso, and when they find these barrels, they mark them with a slash, thus the cut. So 1 out of 100 make this cut, a very rare type of sherry, and it's matured for about 15 years on average. And this Palo Cortado de Jerez that we had, incredibly complex. And one of the things I noted about this wine that was different from the Amontillado and the Oloroso was this tobacco note for some reason, and this really pronounced note of dried tobacco. The Amontillados, to me, though, have a nice richness to them. These are wines that exhibit some of this more like toffee and more like a hazelnut kind of nutty aroma, some walnut, sun-dried tomatoes, sun-dried raisins, dates, and a really intense flavor on the palate. These wines, all of them fortified, so you definitely get that extra kick of alcohol with them. The Los Arcos, an incredible value, and this is $17 and change. I love the saying, in terms of what to serve with these wines. If it swims, pair it with manzanilla or Fino. If it flies, Amontillado. If it runs, oloroso. So, all right, and very interesting. I don't know if you would say a cow runs, but a fast canter. Anyways, the Amontillado de la Porta, the Gonzales O'Brien, this wine showed a little bit more richness to it than the Los Arcos. And, like I said, really hard for me to give you a big difference between these two wines, but definitely a difference. And, $28 versus $17, not a huge difference in price, dollar-wise, but percentage, yes. And again, I don't know if it was double as good, but definitely a little richer and a little more complex on the finish. I just love smelling these sherries. And, somebody mentioned the sweetness level. Once you get into these aged wines, the barrels, they give you an impression of sweetness, but they don't have sweetness, the residual sugar to them of any magnitude. The dry Oloroso Don Nuno, outstanding. This is a wine, we usually stock here in the store. And this is, like I said, no content with the floor of these Olorosos, but they have a lot of wood time, 10 to 12 years for this. So you get a bit of sweetness from that, and definitely more robust than the Palo Cortados, dates and figs and hazelnuts and walnuts. You get a more darker nut showing up in this wine, and just a hint of sweetness on the finish, that lovely briny character, freshening things up. Excellent, the Don Nuno for $20. These wines make great sauces. Also, if you're going to finish off a soup or something like that, to me, sherry. You don't want to buy that cooking wine on the shelf at one of your grocery stores. That's the biggest ripoff there is. You can buy an entry-level sherry for $10 to $15 and kick it up a few notches when you're cooking. An incredible beverage, though. I hate to recommend it for cooking because they are good to drink also. The very rare Oloroso, this wine, a tiny production, just a few hundred cases. The Solera was established in 1921. It's one of the oldest ones that they have, the Imperaz Eugenia, and this wine definitely showing some wonderful complexity. This was my pick for wine of the night, and I apologize I forgot to ask everybody what their wine of the night was, but the sweet styles of sherries, the Pedro Jimenez also really shine. The East Indio Solera, to me, it's not sweet enough, A couple of people said that was the perfect way to end the evening. The Pedro Jimenez was so different than the other wines. It was almost like a different style of wine, and I agree. The sweetness in Pedro Jimenez, it's like 100 grams plus per liter. Incredibly sweet, but they have wonderful acidity to round things out and freshen things up at the finish. You get some lovely fudge and brown spice in these wines. And this San Emilio was aged for 10 to 12 years on average, and just an incredible level of richness. These wines are just thick and sappy on your tongue, but when you swallow them, that freshness begs another sip. Wonderful, just poured right over ice cream. Incredible wines at our Lustau tasting. Check them out. All these wines are available. Maybe not in the store, but we can order them for you and will. And like I say, watch out with those Finos and Manzanillas. Make sure that you check your decoder ring on the back label to make sure they were just bottled in the last year. All right, that's what we had to drink with our friends from Lustau. I'm your host, Andrew Lampasoni, signing off from the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.